first time Clara saw the house on Elmridge Lane, she thought it was abandoned. It sat at the end of a narrow, overgrown drive, darkened with siding cracked and faded from decades of sun and rain. The windows were dusty and opaque, reflecting the late afternoon sky like dull mirrors. A single oak tree leaned precariously near the front porch, its skeletal branches scratching the roof whenever the wind shifted. To anyone else, it would have been forgotten. But to Clara, just out of college and desperate for something she could call her own, it felt promising. Something about the house whispered potential, and maybe that was the first mistake. She ignored the neighbors who shook their heads when she inquired about it. That house, been empty for years. Nobody wants it, one woman had said, voice sharp. Another warned, strange things happen there. Just strange things. Clara smiled politely, not believing in ghosts or omens. She had grown up in the city, in an apartment where walls never creaked and doors never slammed on their own. The thought of an old house full of character, with thick walls and high ceilings, was exhilarating. The purchase was easy enough. The bank had barely questioned her. By the end of the week, she had keys in hand. The first day inside was enchanting. Dust motes floated in streams of sunlight. The floorboards creaked pleasantly, and every corner smelled faintly of cedar and old paper. Clara explored each room with quiet delight. The library with its towering shelves, the kitchen with faded yellow tiles, the bedrooms with moldings she could restore. At night, the house felt larger. Doors seemed farther apart. Hallways stretched just slightly more than they had in daylight. Clara chalked it up to imagination. Old houses had that effect, she reasoned. It wasn't until the second night that she noticed the sound. A slow, almost imperceptible creak, like wood expanding or settling. She paused, listening. The sound came again, deeper, rhythmic, not random, almost breathing. Clara shook her head. It's just the house settling, she muttered. She left the bedroom light on and tried to sleep, but the sound followed her. Not loud, not violent, just persistent. A low, methodical sigh that seemed to come from the walls themselves. By the third night, she couldn't ignore it. The sound grew louder, and the shadows in the corners of her rooms felt heavier. She tried talking to herself, reading books aloud, playing music. The house did not mind. It listened. It started small. Objects were misplaced. A cup on the kitchen counter she remembered setting carefully would appear on the floor, shattered, hours later. Doors that she had locked, latched, would stand open in the morning. The sense of being watched grew. Clara's first visitor, her friend Rachel, noticed it immediately. "This place feels alive," Rachel said during a tour. She walked slowly, fingers brushing walls. "Like it's breathing." Clara laughed. "You're just imagining it." But when Rachel left that evening, Clara realized the library door was slightly ajar. She was certain she had closed it by the end of the first week. The house began shaping itself around her. Hallways subtly shifted. A room that had been square now seemed elongated. The kitchen tiles appeared warped, forming a slight dip in the floor she couldn't measure but could feel with every step. And always, the sound, soft, in and out like lungs. Clara tried to leave. She walked out the front door, breathing fresh air, thinking the rational mind would reset her nerves. But the driveway seemed longer than before, twisted in a way that made the house loom like a predator behind her. The oak tree leaned further inward, almost blocking the path entirely. Something wanted her inside. The next day, she tried to keep busy, painting, cleaning, cataloging books. But at night, the whispers began. Not words, not coherent sounds, just voices murmuring in harmony, low and intimate, like the house was speaking to her. Clara pressed her ear against the wall. The vibration was subtle, but she could feel it, almost a pulse. The house was alive. She was certain of it now. Sleep became impossible. Dreams invaded her thoughts. She dreamt of walls bending inward, ceilings descending, floors rising like waves. Wood and plaster twisted into impossible shapes. She awoke gasping, drenched in sweat, the creak of the house still present, waiting. Objects began moving with intent. A lamp on the dresser tilted to face her, no wind or fault of balance. A chair in the dining room slid closer to the center of the room. Even the books in the library rearranged themselves, their titles forming patterns she couldn't comprehend. By the second week, Clara was speaking aloud to the house. "Stop. Please. Leave me alone." No reply. Only the soft, rhythmic creak. She realized then that it was feeding. Not on blood, not on flesh, but on attention, on emotion. Every heartbeat, every rising panic, every whispered plea strengthened the house. And the more she feared, the stronger it became. Clara's friend Rachel returned, concerned after a week of missed calls. She arrived just as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the house in blood-orange light. "You need to leave," Rachel urged. "Something's wrong." Clara shook her head. "I can't. It won't let me." Rachel frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean it listens. It reacts. It grows when I panic." Rachel laughed nervously. "You're letting an old house get to your head." They argued until the house joined in. Doors slammed, floorboards creaked in rapid succession. The walls seemed to stretch upward, the ceiling bending over them. Rachel's eyes widened. Oh God! The house had decided to assert itself. That night, Clara awoke to find her room changed. The bed was farther from the wall than she had left it. The door to the hall, once straight, curved impossibly toward the living room. She could feel the house breathing through the floorboards. She crept into the hallway. The walls contracted around her, narrowing the passage, then released. She stumbled into the living room, where shadows pooled unnaturally. Furniture had moved, forming a semicircle, facing her. Then she saw it. The portraits on the walls, of people who had clearly lived here decades ago, had shifted. Their eyes now followed her, mouths twisted into faint smiles. For 3 nights, Clara tried to fight it. She refused to sleep, locked doors, placed heavy objects to block pathways. Nothing worked. The house did not care. It was patient. It only fed, waiting for her to break. By the 4th night, she began hearing them. Soft whispers, faint laughter, voices calling her name. Not outside, not in the wind. Inside the walls, behind doors, beneath the floor. She touched the wall. It moved under her hand. Warm, almost alive. She stumbled backward. Her breath came in shallow gasps. Clara realized then that she had to understand it, not fight it. She began studying the house. She mapped hallways, measured rooms, recorded every creak, every shift. She spent hours tracing the floorboards, examining cracks in walls, even scraping away paint to see the original structure. The house, she discovered, was clever. Rooms would change after she measured them. Hallways shifted slightly each night, as if mocking her attempts to control or understand. And yet, patterns emerged. Certain times, certain sounds, certain emotional states seemed to affect the house more. Fear made walls expand violently. Calm made the shift subtle. Laughter, oddly, seemed to soothe it. Then came the breaking point. Clara had tried a night of meditation, staying perfectly still and silent, focusing on calm. For hours, nothing happened. She almost believed she could control it. And then she heard the creak, a slow, deliberate, guttural sigh. It came from the basement, not a room she had explored yet. The door was old, wood warped and gray, a single iron handle rusted and frozen. She hesitated. Then, heart pounding, she descended. The basement was enormous, far larger than the house above suggested. Pipes and support beams twisted like ribs. The air was thick. Every step sent a shiver through the floorboards. And then she saw them. Shadows of previous inhabitants. Figures etched into the walls, frozen mid-motion. Their faces were blank. Their eyes hollow. They were not dead. They were part of the house. Consumed by it. The house wanted more than her fear now. It wanted her attention, her compliance, her emotions laid bare. It reached for her mind. She screamed and ran upstairs. That night, she realized the truth. The house was not evil. Not exactly. It was alive. It fed on life, on attention, on emotion, because that was its nature. It was a predator disguised as walls and wood and beams. She understood finally how to survive. For weeks, Clara learned the rhythm of the house. She laughed sometimes, sang, cried, manipulating her own emotions to control the shifts. She mapped the rooms precisely, using calm to slow the expansions. She spoke to the shadows, pretending familiarity. The house tolerated her, fed slowly. She lived in uneasy harmony. Years later, visitors asked about the house on Elmridge Lane. Neighbors warned them. Strange things happened there. Clara only smiled behind closed curtains. She understood now. Some houses were alive. Some houses were hungry. And some houses were patient. The house on Elmridge Lane had waited centuries for someone like her. And it would wait centuries more.